The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 21.
You're standing in the most beautiful, meticulously manicured garden in the Song Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
You're breathing in this sweet, heavy scent of blooming osmanthus. And, you look up and hanging from these ornate wooden rafters above you are a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Just beaten, bound, and bleeding onto the pristine stones below.
It's an incredibly stark image.
It really is. How an empire's justice system fails so spectacularly that a local fruit vendor ends up strung up and tortured in a prime minister's private Eden.
Exactly. We're not just looking at a violent scene here. We are dissecting the anatomy of unchecked systemic power.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the question for you, the listener, isn't just who did this.
No, it's about the environment.
Right. What kind of environment allows this to happen so brazenly?
Yeah.
So to understand why this couple is hanging there, bleeding out over koi ponds, we have to look at the master of the garden. His name is Qin Huan.
Yes, Jin Huan. And you really can't understand his actions without first mapping out his specific pedigree.
Yeah.
I mean, the structural power vacuum he occupies is just massive. He isn't merely a wealthy merchant or like a mid-level bureaucrat.
Not at all.
He's the second son of Prime Minister Qin. And in the political architecture of the Song dynasty, the prime minister's office is the absolute apex of the bureaucratic pyramid.
Right, second only to the emperor.
Exactly.
And the sources emphasize this one detail that acts as like a massive multiplier for his privilege, which is that his older brother is dead.
That is the crucial structural variable here.
Yeah.
Because in elite families of this era, power and wealth and, political influence, they're usually distributed or at least contested among the heirs.
Right, they have to share it.
Yeah.
Or fight for it.
Exactly. But the older brother's death removes any internal competition. It removes any behavioral check. It essentially turns Qin Huan into this localized black hole.
Oh, wow.
He is the sole, uncontested heir to an immense, sprawling dynasty of political influence. Every favor owed to the prime minister, every connection, it's all funneled directly into him.
That is terrifying. But I wanted to push back a little on the idea of him just being a passive product of his environment.
Okay, sure.
Because we see people with immense privilege who just, squander it quietly. They just lounge around.
Right, they just enjoy the wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Qin Huan actively militarizes his privilege.
Yeah.
Like, he's a nepotism baby, sure.
Yeah.
But he's crossed with a ruthless mob boss who has the literal backing of the state.
He really has.
He keeps a private army of thugs. He systematically kidnaps young women. The text specifically notes young wives and virgin daughters.
It's horrific.
And if their families have the audacity to come to his estate looking for them, he doesn't just, have his guards turn them away.
No, he doesn't.
He has them beaten to death with clubs in the open street.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of that impunity.
Yeah.
The terror he inflicts isn't just a result of his personal sadism, though he is clearly sadistic. It's a direct result of institutional abdication.
Right. The system failing.
Specifically the yamen, the local government offices. The text explicitly points out that when the victims' families attempt to file petitions, the local magistrates categorically refuse to accept the cases.
Which is just insane.
They are completely paralyzed by the shadow of the prime minister's office.
And that's an incredible failure of the state. Because the yamen is designed to be the friction point between the populace and the elite.
Exactly.
When a magistrate refuses to even register a complaint, the legal reality for the commoner it ceases to exist.
It evaporates.
But, is it really a breakdown of the system, or is the system working exactly as designed for someone like him? Like, the yamen protects the state, and he essentially is the state.
That's an excellent distinction. From the perspective of the commoner, it is a total collapse of the social contract.
Yeah.
They're suddenly thrust into this state of nature where the apex predator operates without any constraints. But from the yamen's perspective...
It's self-preservation.
Exactly. It's a calculated political survival strategy. To process a lawsuit against the sole heir of the prime minister is institutional suicide.
You lose your job or your life.
Right. The magistrate weighs the life of a peasant against the wrath of the capital, and, well, the peasant loses every single time.
So it creates this terrifying hybrid, like you said, a localized black hole.
Mm-hmm.
The yamen, the laws, basic human decency, they all have a gravitational pull. But once you get within the event horizon of the prime minister's estate, the physics of society completely break down.
They really do.
You can't call the authorities because he owns the authorities.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder the locals have given him a nickname.
Right, they don't call him Young Master Qin.
No, they call him the life-chasing demon, Zhui Mingyi.
And the linguistic choice of Zuimingyi is highly revealing.
How so?
Well, by classifying him as a demon, a supernatural entity, the local populace is acknowledging that he operates completely outside the bounds of human law and human reasoning.
Oh, that makes sense.
You cannot negotiate with a demon. You cannot sue a ghost.
Wow. Yeah.
It is a relentless, consuming force. So the moniker is an admission of complete systemic helplessness. Your only defense against a life-chasing demon is to just never intersect with its path.
Which brings us to the inciting incident of this entire tragedy, because unfortunately for the Wang family, their path does intersect with his.
Tragically, yes.
And it starts with a deeply mundane, almost petty moment. We find Xin Huan lounging in his pavilion.
Right.
And the text notes he isn't reading the Confucian classics. He isn't studying statecraft. He is reading, quote, lewd books and heretical ideas.
He's indulging himself.
Yeah, specifically, he's obsessing over the Tang Dynasty, Emperor Xuanzong Tang Minghuang, and his historically devastating romance with his consort Yang Guifei.
Now, the intertextuality here is vital.
Okay, break that down for us.
The author is using the story of Tang Minghuang to highlight Qin Huan's dangerous self-aggrandizement.
Right.
The romance of the emperor and Yang Guifei is one of the most famous cautionary tales in Chinese history. It's a narrative where an emperor's unchecked obsession with a single beauty essentially catalyzed the An Lushan Rebellion.
Which brought the whole Tang Empire to its knees.
Exactly. It is a fundamental story about how unchecked desire destroys kingdoms.
But wait, the standard reading is that Xin Huan is just a superficial leader, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's missing the point of the cautionary tale.
That's the usual interpretation, yeah.
But I want to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Is he actually disconnected from reality, or is he acutely aware of it?
What do you mean?
Well, Tang Minghuang destroyed an empire for a woman, yes, but he still remained an emperor. The millions who died were the commoners. So maybe Qin Huan isn't missing the point at all. Maybe he's reading this and realizing that at his level of power, the caution simply doesn't apply to him. He can afford to be reckless because the fallout won't hit him, it'll hit the peasantry.
That is a chilling but highly plausible interpretation of his psychology.
Right.
He views the immense collateral damage of the Tang Dynasty not as a tragedy, but as a testament to the scale of imperial power.
Yeah, like a flex.
Exactly. He is reading a specific poem about Lady Guoguo, that's Yang Guifei's sister, and he's marveling at her natural beauty, how she could ride into the palace without makeup.
Right, he slaps the table in delight.
Yes, shouting about the unparalleled beauty of these historical women, he is literally casting himself in the role of the emperor, believing he holds the same divine right of acquisition.
And right at the height of this narcissistic fantasy, his favored servant, Qin Yu, steps up.
Right, aren't you?
And we have to talk about Qin Yu because he is the structural enabler here. He is the parasite that feeds the demon.
Every localized black hole requires an accretion disk, the matter that feeds it.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Qin Yu is the quintessential sycophant. He recognizes that his own proximity to power depends entirely on indulging and escalating his master's worst impulses.
Yeah, he's just milking the situation.
He hears Qin Huan lamenting that such beauties only existed in the past, and he immediately capitalizes on it.
He's like, actually, boss.
Right. He tells Qin Huan, I have seen a woman alive today, right here in the Song Dynasty, who is far more beautiful than Yang Guifei.
And here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, deeply unsettling.
Hey.
Let's look at the logistics of how Qin Yu discovered this woman.
It's terrifying.
Because it wasn't at a curated gathering of elite families. It wasn't a strategic political scouting mission. It was entirely random. Qin Yu was at the wooden market. He had just purchased 2 Nanmu wood chairs.
The detail of the Nanmu wood chairs is actually an excellent indicator of the casual, ambient wealth of the Qin estate.
How so?
Well, Nanmu is an incredibly prized, dense, and expensive timber. The fact that a servant is out casually purchasing heavy Nanmu furniture just underscores the sheer economic disparity at play here.
Exactly. So Qin Yu has these heavy, expensive chairs, and he requires manual labor to transport them back to the estate.
Right. He's not going to carry them himself.
Of course not.
Huh.
So he approaches a local fruit vendor, Wang Xing, to hire him as a porter. He knocks on the door of Wang Xing's home, and for just a fraction of a second, Wang Xing's 19-year-old wife, Wu Shi, happens to step out.
It is a profound commentary on the precarity of the lower classes.
Yeah, it really is.
A family's entire existence is about to be systematically dismantled simply because a wealthy man's servant didn't want to carry his own furniture.
And a young woman happened to walk through a doorway at the wrong millisecond.
Exactly.
It's just the terrifying randomness of the universe. If Qin Yu negotiates the price of those chairs for 10 more seconds, or if he hires a different porter, or if Wu Shi had just stayed in the back room, none of this happens.
None of it.
But she is seen. And the moment she is perceived by the proxy of the life-chasing demon, her status fundamentally alters. She ceases to be a human being and instantly becomes an object of consumption.
And we see that instantaneous commodification in Xinhuan's reaction.
Oh, yeah.
When Qin Yu reports the sighting, Xinhuan doesn't ask for her name. He doesn't ask about her background or her husband.
He didn't care.
His immediate response is to issue a bounty. He says, "Formulate a plan to acquire her, and I will give you 200 taels of silver."
We have to contextualize that sum. A tael is this traditional unit of weight.
Right. It's roughly equivalent to an ounce, I think.
Exactly, about an ounce. 200 taels of silver. That isn't just a generous tip.
No, absolutely not.
That is a staggering, life-altering fortune in the Song Dynasty economy.
It is an amount of wealth that essentially overwrites the local economy, and Xinhuan just casually deploys it as an operational budget for kidnapping.
Yeah, it's wild.
This is where the lofty, romanticized historical poetry he was just reading slams into the cold, transactional reality of his own methodology.
Yes.
He fancies himself an emperor wooing a legendary beauty, but in practice, he is a mob boss putting out a contract. The poetry evaporates, and the ledger remains.
It's the absolute banality of evil. They are literally budgeting for the destruction of a family.
Mm-hmm.
So Qin Yu secures his payday, whispers a logistical plan into Qin Huan's ear, and Qin Huan just laughs out loud. The trap is set.
Right.
And this brings us to the execution of Phase 1, the extraction and interrogation of the husband, Wang Xing.
The architecture of the trap begins with a deliberate de-escalation of threat.
Explain that.
Well, Qin Yu returns to the wooden market where Wang Xing has set up his fruit stall. And he approaches him not with the thugs of the estate, but with the demeanor of a patron.
Okay.
He tells Wang Xing, "The young master wants to see you."
And Wang Xing, operating under the standard assumptions of commerce, is thrilled.
Of course he is.
The text notes, he walks in smiling. He's anticipating a lucrative sale of exotic fruit to the Prime Minister's estate. He leaves his stall, walks through the gates of the garden, completely oblivious that he has just crossed the event horizon.
He is guided deep into the estate, specifically to the Dangi Xuan, a pavilion in the inner garden.
Right.
And there sits Qin Huan, flanked by his enforcers. The spatial dynamics immediately establish the absolute power differential.
Yeah, it's intimidating by design.
Exactly. Wang Xing bows, adopting the subservient posture required of his class, and asks how he might serve the master. But Qin Huan bypasses any pretense of commerce entirely.
He just cuts right to it.
He initiates a highly specific demographic interrogation. He asks, "Who is in your family? How old are you? Tell the truth."
Notice the specific progression of that interrogation. Like you mentioned, he doesn't ask for a name. He's assessing the structural integrity of the target's social web. By demanding to know who is in the household, Xin Huan is mapping out the legal and social landmines he might have to navigate. It is predatory reconnaissance disguised as small talk.
Precisely. Wang Xing is disoriented, but compliance is mandatory, so he provides the data. He says he is 22, his mother is 50, and his wife is 19, making a household of 3.
And having mapped the territory, Qin Huan drops the hammer. He makes the blunt force offer.
He does.
He tells Wang Xing, "I hear your woman is quite good looking. Take these 200 taels of silver, go buy yourself another wife, and give your current one to me."
The psychological whiplash here is staggering.
I can't even imagine.
Wang Xing walked into that pavilion calculating the profit margin on a basket of pears. Within seconds, he is ordered to liquidate his marriage.
And the text says Wang Xing physically shudders, breaking into a cold sweat. He instantly recognizes the gravity of his situation.
He knows exactly who he's dealing with.
Right? He knows the reputation of the life-chasing demon. If he relies on raw emotion, if he screams, "I love her, you can't have her," he will be beaten to death on those polished stones, and his wife will be taken anyway.
He is trapped in an unwinnable scenario. He has no legal recourse. The yamen is close to him. Physical resistance is suicide.
So what does he do?
He has to engage in rapid, high-stakes mental calculus. He has to find a way to refuse the offer without triggering the violence.
Yeah.
He must locate a lever within the culture's own operating system that even Qin Huan cannot casually break.
And this is where Wang Jing deploys filial piety.
Yes.
He doesn't just beg, he uses it as a legal and cultural shield. He bows and says, "Master, I didn't marry my wife for my own pleasure. I married her so she could serve and care for my mother."
It's a very smart move.
He says, "I cannot abandon my mother's care, but I promise you, once my mother passes away, I will gladly hand my wife over to you, and I won't even ask for the silver."
It is a brilliant, desperate strategic maneuver. We know that in Song Dynasty jurisprudence and societal organization, filial piety isn't merely a moral suggestion.
No, it's the law.
It is the absolute foundational pillar of the law. Disrupting the care of an elder carries severe legal and cosmic penalties.
Right.
Wang Xing is betting that even a monster like Qin Huan will hesitate to explicitly violate a core Confucian mandate on paper. He's trying to force Qin Huan into a bureaucratic and moral corner.
He's effectively saying, please respect the cultural operating system we both exist within. And for a fraction of a second, the shield holds.
It does.
Qin Huan hesitates. The structural weight of filial piety gives him pause. He actually considers letting Wang Jing go.
But then, the sycophant intervenes.
Qin Yu.
Qin Yu steps out of the shadows to ruthlessly dismantle the defense.
He acts as the sociopathic actuary of the estate.
That's the perfect term for him.
He performs the evil math required to bypass the cultural taboo. He whispers to Qin Huan, "Don't listen to him. He's just stalling. His mother is only 50. Let's say she lives another 30 years. By the time she dies, his wife will be almost 50 years old. What use will you have for a 50-year-old woman? He is mocking you."
The sheer toxicity of that argument. Qin Yu completely strips away the moral weight of elder care by translating it into a depreciation equation.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
The asset will lose its value over time, sir. You must acquire it now. He frames Wang Xing's desperate plea for his family's survival as an insult to Qin Huan's intelligence.
And that is the exact trigger needed. Qin Huan's ego is intensely fragile, as is common with absolute tyrants.
Very common.
The moment he perceives that a commoner is attempting to outsmart him, the polite fiction of the transaction collapses. He realizes he can't buy the outcome smoothly, so he immediately reverts to baseline barbarism.
He screams at Wang Xing, calls him a dog, and orders his thugs to string him up.
The illusion of negotiation evaporates in an instant. The 200 taels were never a real offer.
No, they were just a prop.
A prop to allow Qin Huan to view himself as a benefactor. Once rejected, the life-chasing demon reveals his true face. Wang Xing is hoisted into the rafters, immobilized and helpless. Phase 1 is complete. The husband is neutralized.
Which necessitates phase 2,
Yeah.
the extraction of the target.
The wife.
Yes, they have the husband, but they still need to lure the 19-year-old wife, Wu Shi, out of the relative safety of her home and into the heavily fortified prime minister's estate.
Right.
And they cannot simply dispatch armed men to drag her through the streets. Even with their impunity, a daylight screaming abduction of a respectable woman from the market might generate enough friction to be a nuisance.
It's too messy.
Exactly. They need her to cross the threshold willingly.
This requires a highly sophisticated form of social engineering.
It really does.
Qin Yu calls upon one of his lackeys, an operative referred to as Sanye, or the third master. Sanye travels back to the wooden market, knocks on the door of the Wang residence, and is greeted by the 50-year-old mother. And Sanye spins a lie that is devastating, precisely because of how perfectly calibrated it is to bypass their defenses.
The architecture of this lie is masterful.
Walk us through it.
Sanye claims to be a casual associate of Wang Xing. He delivers the payload. Right after he set up his stall today, your son collapsed. He hit the ground, he's foaming at the mouth, he is entirely unresponsive.
Wow.
We carried him into the Prime Minister's garden because a doctor was nearby, but the physician refuses to administer emergency treatment unless a close family member is present to authorize it.
Let's look at the mechanics of why this works so flawlessly.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially a high-stakes phishing scam.
That's exactly what it is.
What are the elements? First, establish a sudden, catastrophic emergency to bypass logical processing.
Let's check.
Second, introduce extreme time pressure. He's foaming at the mouth, implying imminent death.
Right.
Third, introduce an authoritative bureaucratic roadblock. The doctor requires familial consent. This is designed to force immediate action while simultaneously explaining why Wang Xing is inside a restricted elite space.
It covers all the bases. But the true brilliance of Sanye's manipulation lies in how he navigates the internal logistics of the household.
Oh, this part is so
That's
twisted.
When the 50-year-old mother immediately declares that she must go to her son, Sanye actively prevents her, using the society's own strictures against her.
Right, because if the mother goes, the trap fails. Qinhuan doesn't want the mother, so Sanye has to pivot.
Exactly. Sanye counters her maternal instinct with societal propriety. He argues that as an elderly woman, the chaotic environment of a medical emergency in an elite household would be too overwhelming.
He's playing the concern card.
Yes. Furthermore, he points out the logistical impropriety of leaving a young 19-year-old daughter-in-law completely unchaperoned to manage the household.
And within the context of Song Dynasty domestic norms, the mother agrees.
She does.
Sanye has seamlessly weaponized their own respectability against them. He forces a rapid consultation between the mother and daughter-in-law. They assess the situation through the lens of their societal obligations, and the conclusion is inevitable. Wu Shi must be the one to go.
The text notes that Wu Shi deeply understands the 3 obediences and 4 virtues.
Right, the traditional moral codes.
We don't need to rehash the basics of Confucian gender roles here, but it's critical to observe how the villains use her adherence to these codes as a remote control mechanism.
That's a great way to put it.
Her absolute moral obligation to serve her husband supersedes her personal safety. Operating under this strict moral framework, she rushes out in a panic, stepping into a closed sedan chair conveniently provided by Sanye.
The sedan chair is such a potent symbol here. It acts as a transitional space.
Yes.
For Wu Shi, sitting inside, probably weeping, terrified that she is going to watch her husband die of a seizure, the sedan chair is a vehicle of urgent medical rescue. But in reality, it's a mobile prison cell carrying her directly into the jaws of the beast.
The spatial transition is completed when the sedan chair is set down within the Dangi Xuan Pavilion.
She steps out, parts the curtain, and the elaborate fiction of the medical emergency shatters instantly.
Instantly.
There is no doctor. Her husband isn't suffering a seizure. He is bound, battered, and suspended from the wooden beams. And seated comfortably below him is Qinhuan.
This moment represents the ideological core of the narrative.
How so?
Well, the physical deception is over, and we are now witnessing a direct, head-on collision between absolute, structurally reinforced power and unyielding personal virtue.
Yeah.
And the author masterfully uses physical description to set the stakes of this confrontation before a single line of dialogue is exchanged.
Yes, the narrative pauses the action to deliver this highly detailed, incredibly sharp satirical poem describing Qinhuan from Wu Shi's perspective.
Brilliant.
It's a fantastic literary technique to juxtapose his material wealth with his internal rot.
Let's examine the specific imagery of that poem. It begins by cataloging the overwhelming evidence of his privilege.
Right.
He is adorned in a rui cap with flowing embroidered ribbons. He wears ornaments of mutton fat jade, which is the highest grade of jade, symbolizing purity and immense wealth.
Only the best for him.
Naturally. He is draped in a luxurious Tartar robe woven with intricate floral patterns of gold thread. He wears crisp, powder-soled boots. Every millimeter of his attire is a testament to an insurmountable concentration of resources.
But then the poem abruptly shifts its gaze from the garments to the man inside them.
Right.
It says, but look at his face, it's hard to look at. The text describes a bulging forehead, a severely receding chin, eyes like ceramic bowls protruding from his skull, and an elongated neck.
Very visual.
And the concluding line delivers the killing blow. He looks exactly like a living, breathing toad.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is executing a devastating critique of the song Elite.
Yeah, definitely.
The poem establishes a direct, inverse relationship between material wealth and moral or physical form. All the gold thread and mutton fat jade in the empire cannot mask the reality that Qin Huan is a repulsive amphibian. His immense privilege actually magnifies his grotesqueness. The toad is the physical manifestation of systemic corruption.
A toad draped in imperial wealth. And this toad, sitting beneath the beaten body of her husband, attempts to woo her.
He does?
He deploys the exact same transactional logic he tried on Wang Jing, assuming it is universally effective.
Yeah.
He tells her, don't be afraid. I offered your husband a highly equitable deal, 200 taels for him to secure a new life, and you get to remain here with me.
The audacity is just...
It's wild. He says, "Why return to a life of coarse tea, plain rice, and rough cloth with the food vendor? Stay with me and you will wear silks and live in absolute luxury."
It is a stunning display of narcissistic solipsism.
Yeah.
He genuinely perceives himself as a savior. He assumes that his desire, combined with his capital, constitutes an irresistible
Right,
force.
he thinks he's doing them a favor.
He views her current life of poverty as a tragic error that his wealth can generously correct. He cannot fathom a value system that prioritizes fidelity over upward mobility.
But Wu Shi completely upends his worldview. The text vividly describes her reaction. Her almond eyes glare, and her moth eyebrows stand on end.
She is furious.
She isn't cowering at all.
Yeah.
She is enraged. And she doesn't just reject him with an emotional plea about true love,
Mhm.
She counterattacks using brilliant, razor-sharp political logic.
This is one of the most remarkable moments in the text.
Yeah, tell them what she says.
She looks directly at the son of the prime minister in the heart of his fortress and says, "You are the son of a high official, born to a noble family. You already possess a household full of concubines. You should be accumulating good karma and acting with virtue."
And then the threat.
Yes. She says, "If the imperial censors, the Yuxiang discover what you are doing here, your father could face severe impeachment."
She drops the censorate on him. Let's talk about why this is such a massive escalation.
Wu Shi's invocation of the Yuxi Yangguan demonstrates profound political acumen.
Right, she's not just a helpless vendor's wife.
Not at all. As we know, the imperial censorate operated as the emperor's internal affairs division, functioning entirely outside the standard bureaucratic chain of command.
They didn't answer to the local magistrates.
Exactly. Their explicit mandate was to bypass local authorities like the corrupted Yamen and report directly to the throne on matters of elite misconduct.
Right, so she is essentially saying, I know the local magistrates work for you, but I also know the structural vulnerability of your father's office.
Yes.
She is reminding him that his power is delegated, not absolute. A scandal of this magnitude, if it reached the censors, could give political rivals in the capital exactly the ammunition they need to dismantle his father's dynasty. She is attacking the toad right in its unarmored underbelly.
Exactly. By utilizing this specific political threat, she shatters his illusion of absolute invulnerability.
And he does not handle it well.
Not at all. It is this exact display of intelligence and defiance that triggers his ultimate rage. When his wealth fails to impress her and his structural authority is threatened rather than worshipped, his ego just completely fractures,
The mask of the generous nobleman disintegrates.
leaving only the barbaric core.
He is profoundly humiliated. Wang Xing, seeing the fury in Qin Huan's eyes, tries desperately to de-escalate, begging for mercy, pleading that they are merely poor vendors who meant no offense.
But Xinhuan is entirely beyond reason.
Yeah. He orders his enforcers to seize Wu Shi, string her up right next to her husband, and begin whipping them both.
The physical torture commences. They are stripped of all legal protection, all physical agency, and any logical hope of extraction.
The narrative forces us to watch this young couple, completely outmatched, hanging from the wooden beams, absorbing the brutality of a tyrant's rage.
It's very difficult to read.
It is. Yet the text explicitly notes a crucial internal detail. They resolve to die rather than submit. They make a conscious, joint decision to let their physical bodies be destroyed because it is the only mechanism left to them to preserve their moral integrity.
It is a bleak but immensely powerful portrait of righteous defiance. When every systemic lever of justice has been broken or corrupted by the elite, the only territory the commoner still controls is their internal consent.
Wow.
By choosing the lash over submission, they deny Xinhuan the one thing his money and power demanded: their complicity. They expose his power as ultimately hollow. He can break their bones, but he cannot rewrite their morality.
Which brings us full circle. We are back to the visceral nightmare image we started with. The painting of the tranquil garden is thoroughly shattered. Night has fallen over the estate.
Right.
The Wangs are bleeding into the dirt. Xinhuan is casually sitting nearby, drinking wine, observing the torture of two innocent people whose only crime was existing in his field of vision.
It's the ultimate display of cruelty.
It feels like the darkest possible timeline has fully solidified. The black hole has consumed them.
The tension is absolute. But just as the narrative establishes this atmosphere of inescapable despair, the author executes a violent, jarring genre shift.
It is absolute narrative whiplash. Right as Qin Huan is enjoying his wine, one of his servants comes sprinting into the garden, completely hysterical.
Yes.
He screams that a ghost is causing a massive disturbance in the east courtyard of the estate.
The introduction of the supernatural element here is a masterful stroke of narrative disruption.
Because it's the one thing he can't control.
Exactly. What is the single vulnerability of a man who controls all earthly sisters of power? The unearthly.
Right.
Qinhuan's entire psychological architecture is built on his ability to control outcomes through wealth and violence. The prospect of an actual ghost, an entity immune to bribery and clubs, instantly destabilizes him. His power trip is interrupted.
He immediately orders his thugs to grab lanterns, and he leads his entire private army out of the garden, rushing toward the east courtyard to confront the supernatural threat.
Leaving the Dan Bishuan pavilion completely abandoned.
Save for the hanging couple.
Right.
The garden is plunged back into darkness and silence. And then, from the shadows of the manicured trees, a figure steps out. Zhao Bin.
Zhao Bin, fully titled as Reaching into the Bag to Take Things, Zhao Bin.
What a title.
He is a pivotal archetype in this narrative, the wuxia vigilante. He is a highly trained martial artist who operates stealthily outside the corrupted legal frameworks to enforce a higher cosmic justice.
So he's the counterbalance.
He represents the necessary counterbalance to systemic failure, yes. When the Yamen refuses to act, the vigilante must drop from the rafters.
He sneaks into the pavilion, quickly assesses the horrific situation, and immediately moves to execute a rescue. He draws his blade and cuts Wang Xing down from the beams.
Right.
He frees Wu Xi. But then, the narrative introduces a torturous logistical hurdle. The ropes binding Wang Xing's arms are tied with incredibly tight, complex knots. Zhao Bin is forced to struggle in the dark, his fingers fumbling with the bloody ropes.
The author is playing with the pacing brilliantly here.
Oh, absolutely.
We have transitioned from a slow burn psychological tragedy into a brief moment of supernatural diversion, and now we are locked into a high-octane, ticking clock thriller.
You can feel the clock ticking.
The reader is acutely aware that Qinhuan and his thugs could realize the ghost is a distraction and return at any second. The tension shifts from existential dread to immediate physical urgency.
You're practically screaming at the text as you read it. Just cut the ropes. Don't try to untie them.
Exactly.
And precisely as Zhao Bin is wrestling with these knots, the ultimate terror manifests. Without a sound, out of the pitch blackness of the pavilion, someone grabs Zhao Bin from behind.
The cavalry is caught. The rescuer is suddenly immobilized.
But Zhao Bin is an elite wuxia operative. He doesn't panic. His muscle memory takes over, and he immediately initiates a highly advanced, specialized martial arts countermeasure. The text refers to it as shedding the robe.
Let's analyze the biomechanics of that maneuver.
Please do.
Shedding the robe is a classic grappling escape. The practitioner intentionally slips out of their outer garment to eliminate the attacker's handhold, simultaneously dropping their center of gravity to establish leverage, and then violently torques their hips to throw the opponent over their shoulder.
Wow, okay.
It is a technique specifically engineered to neutralize a surprise rear assault from a larger opponent.
It relies entirely on speed, leverage, and applied physics.
Yeah.
Zhao Bin executes the move perfectly. The text states he uses his lifelong strength.
He throws everything he has into it.
He channels every ounce of his extensive martial training into this single explosive throw.
But the technique fails completely.
It doesn't just fail, it is entirely negated. The person holding him doesn't shift a single millimeter. The text describes the attacker holding him as being like Mount Tai.
And the invocation of Mount Tai is deeply significant here.
Let's talk about that.
Mount Tai is the most prominent of the 5 great mountains of China. It is the cultural and literary epitome of absolute immovability, overwhelming weight, and ancient, unyielding presence.
Right. To describe a human combatant as Mount Tai is to signify that they possess a strength that fundamentally breaks the established rules of martial arts. They are not merely strong. They are a geological force.
It captures that visceral, paralyzing feeling of fighting in a nightmare.
Oh, exactly.
You throw a punch with everything you have, and your arm moves like it's submerged in wet concrete. You push with all your might against a door, and it simply refuses to yield. That is the terror Zhao Bin is experiencing.
It's terrifying.
The most lethal, capable wuxia hero in the room is instantaneously reduced to utter powerlessness. The rescuer is now a captive. And it is right there, at the absolute peak of that paralyzing realization, the chapter ends on a massive, earth-shattering cliffhanger.